Hi gang, today we're going to be finding the function rule that crosses through 2 points. Let's take a look at what we got. So here you can find the equation of the line that passes through 2 points without graphing as well. You're going to first place the given coordinates in a table. Second, find the slope, which is the change in y over the change in x, or as you've been hearing me say, the rise over the run. Then you're going to find the y-intercept by substituting the slope and one of the given coordinates into y equals mx plus b and solve for b. And last, you're going to rewrite the equations with the values found in step 2 and 3. So let's see what this looks like. Here's our first example. So in number 1, we have two coordinates, m and a. So we start by setting up our table. It would be nice if I had a white pen instead of a black pen. Let's try that again. So we have x and y. And from the points given, we know 0 would be the x and y would be the -8. 5 would be an x and y would, or 2 would be y. So we have 0, -8, which hopefully you recognize as the y-intercept, which is going to make our life a little bit easier, and 5, 2. So -8 to 2 is increasing by 10, finding the slope. 0 to 5 is increasing by 5. So my slope, again, that change in y over change in x, is equal to 10 over 5, which is 2. So now we have our slope and we have our y-intercept because that's where x is 0. So we have our equation y equals 2x minus 8, final answer. So again, just like when we were doing the tables, it's going to be easier if the y-intercept is given. And remember, for it to be the y-intercept, the x value is 0. Let's take a look at another example. Number 2. Again, we set up our table. X, then y. In t, x is -10 and y is 3. In h, x is 0 and y is -2. So 0, -2. So now we can set up our table and find our slope. 3 to -2 is going down 5. -10 to 0 is going up 10. So my m, which is change in y over change in x, is -5 over 10, which simplifies to -1/2. So now we have the slope, and from one of the coordinates, we have the y-intercept because that's where x is 0. So that's where it would cross the y-axis. We can set up our equation. Y equals -1/2 x minus 2, final answer. So those ones are super, super easy. Hopefully you're catching on real quick because you're going to try 3 through 6 on your own or with a partner before moving on. So I would pause the video here if I were you. Okay, so now we're going to look at some examples where the y-intercept is not given. So we have to do a little bit more work. Starting with 7, we have a is -5, 2. So we start our table x, y. The -5 is the x, the 2 is the y. And then for b, 3, 18. The 3 is the x, the 18 is the y. So we do 2 to 18, which is increasing by 16, and -5 to 3, which is increasing by 8. 16 over 8 gives us the slope, which is 2. Now we have to solve for the y-intercept. So the y-intercept not given in the table, we're going to start with y equals 2x plus b. We can plug in one of the two given coordinates. I'm going to avoid using a negative if possible. So 18 is going to go in for y equals 2 times 3 plus b, which is this coordinate right here. So then we can solve. 18 equals 6 plus b, subtract the 6, and b equals 12. Now put that back into the equation, making our final answer y equals 2x plus 12. Now, a quick way I could check to make sure this works is actually plug it in. If I do 2 times 3, I get 6, and 6 plus 12 is 18. So we know we did it right. If I do 2 times -5, that's -10, and -10 plus 12 is +2. So again, a quick way of making sure we have the right equation. Let's take a look at another example. Number 8. Again, we set up our table. C is -4, 6, and D is 2, -12. 6 to -12 is decreasing by 18. -4 to 2 is increasing by 6. So my slope is -18 over +6, or -3. Now we start finding the rest of the equation. So we know it's -3x plus b. We pick one of those points and plug it in. So I can't really avoid having a negative this time. So I'm going to plug in the c value. So we have 6 equals -3 times -4 plus b. So 6 equals 12 plus b. Subtract 12, subtract 12, and we get our y-intercept, -6. Put that back in the equation, and our final answer is y equals -3x minus 6. Now, like I said before, I could plug in one of the coordinates to make sure I'm doing this correctly. If I do -3 times 2, I get -6, and -6 minus 6 is -12. If I plug in -4, -3 times -4 is +12, and 12 minus 6 is +6. So both coordinates work in that equation, which proves that we've found the correct equation. Let's keep on going. Okay, so for number 9, again, we write our table. -2, -4 is D, and 4, 5 is E. -4 to 5 is increasing by 9. -2 to 4 is increasing by 6, making my slope 9 over 6. Now, 6 doesn't go into 9 a whole number of times, so we're going to simplify. 9 and 6 can both be divided by 3, so we get 3 over 2. Now we sub that in for m. Y equals 3 halves x plus b, and pick a coordinate to plug in. So again, I want to try to avoid the negatives if possible, so I'm going to plug in e. I get 5 equals 3 halves of 4 plus b. So 5 equals, remember my trick, divide by the denominator, multiply by the numerator. 4 divided by 2 is 2, times 3 is 6 plus b. Subtract 6 from both sides, and b equals -1. Plug that back in. Y equals 3 halves of x minus 1. And again, if I wanted to, I could plug in the 4 to get out 5. So 3 halves of 4 would be 6, and 6 minus 1 is 5. I could plug in the -2, and I would get out -4. 3 halves of -2 is -3, and -3 minus 1 is -4, proving that I did it correctly. All right. Hopefully you see where I'm going here, picking this up. We're going to do one more together before you're on your own. So for 10, again, set up your table. For F, we have -9, 8, and for G, 3, -8. From 8 to -8, we're decreasing by -16. From -9 to 3, we're increasing by 12. So makes my slope -16 over 12, which are both divisible by 4, so I'm going to change it to -4/3. Start writing my equation. Y equals -4/3 x plus b. Again, my next step is to plug in a coordinate. In both cases here, I have negative, so I'm just going to choose one. I'm going to go with -9 and 8, so 8 goes in for y, and -9 goes in for x. So 8 equals, again, using that trick, -9 divided by 3 is -3. -3 times -4 is +12 plus b. Subtract 12 from both sides, and b equals -4. Plug that back in, and we have our final answer, -4/3 x minus 4. All right, so these can be tedious and require quite a bit of work, but if you do it this way, you will always get the right answer. All right, so you are now on your own trying 11 through 12 on your own or with a partner. Check in with me to be sure you've got the right answers, then move on to the exit ticket, and last, the homework.